going to be talking about the base platform. We'll have Rex talk about the great things happening from a discovery and workspace perspective. Then I will provide some updates of the latest developments there from an edge intelligence perspective. We'll talk healing, app distribution, and over to Laura to close things from a UWM perspective. So again, we'll double click into these items as we get further in. So here's the 10-mile high view. But let's go and jump straight in. So first of all, from a platform perspective, we're going to be covering a number of items within here. We're going to demo a couple of capabilities. Now, a couple of call outs in here, which we don't have separate slides for. They are items that we are currently tracking through. One of those is maintenance window capability, which of course is going to be important for numerous features on the platform. So that's going to be an in-quarter delivery. We also have support for one login IDP as well. With regard to the other items, let's go and jump straight in and unpack these a little bit. So first of all, is reboot customization. So this was a capability that we brought in for Windows only in the previous release. And what we're doing, again, Mac, we work to provide the parity that generally comes in the release after, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So that same capability to create the agent branding, title, icon, and message, we'll be launching the Mac capability for that. Okay, next up we have preferred servers. Now, preferred servers are, again, a great capability for catering for bandwidth. So where you have limited bandwidth requirements, again, this is an additional option to the peer download capability that's already supported by the agent. And this is coming in two tranches of capability. The first capability is going to provide capabilities for our app distribution. So the ability to stage content on a server, configure that server so the agent have the path and ability to download. The next tranche of work will apply for patches as well. That requires a bit of additional work. But to show you what this looks like, I'm going to jump out and show the UI for this one. So if I come over here, and on the development tenant within here, we can see that we have the preferred server settings. So again, within the preferred server, I'm able to go and add a server. I'm able to add the IP address range in there. Sync engine configuration is that functionality that will support the patch. So I'm able to go in and configure the credentials, the path, the URL. Then what I'm able to do is from an agent control perspective, is I can go into my agent management, and then from a per policy perspective, so agent policies, from a per policy perspective, I can go and open a policy within here. I have the agent settings available. And when I edit this, I have the abilities within there to denote whether I want this to be available from peer endpoints or whether I also want to download from preferred server. And I can choose the strategy for that, whether I'm choosing the preferred server or whether I'm auto detecting via IP address. Okay, so next, we have the ability to sort and filter capability configurations. So we're going full screen. And so as we have various policy items which have associated configurations, if you create a lot of them, that historically has been a bit of a challenge to work with that big list. So first of all, alphabetizing the list to make it easy to find the right one. And secondly, provide the ability to filter on those capability configurations. So again, just helping to be more efficient with working with those. The next item is really around connectivity. So we're always cognizant of the footprint of the solution. So again, we're making optimizations and efficiencies with the endpoint footprint, but as well as that, we also look at the network footprint. And so this is predominantly for newer customers who are adopting the solution, but it might apply to existing customers as well. So again, we leverage MQTT, a really powerful protocol that powers a lot of our edge intelligence and agentry and supports that real time, that ability for us to scale to tens of thousands of devices and bring the results back in a few seconds. All of the underlying smarts behind that are dealt with the MQTT protocol. Now, the implementation that we have today is using the standard RFC port for that. What we are rolling in is the ability for customers to optionally use 443 over WebSockets. And the reason for that is it's less work to do from a firewall perspective in terms of opening those additional ports. Secondly, it also makes it more proxy friendly for many proxy solutions where customers have that requirement as well. So again, if you're already happily working with MQTT, like not going to be of interest. But if you do use proxy servers and have that need, bear in mind that's something that's coming. So the next thing to talk about is agent health. And so, of course, we introduced the V1 of agent health. So just as a recap for that one, if I go into agent management, we introduced last quarter the ability to understand agent health on the per device level. So of course I can go in and I can understand the manageability, any issues with those devices, which has been well received. Now the challenge with this, if I've got thousands of devices and maybe I want to go and investigate a number of those. If I have more than a handful of devices I want to follow up on, again, this experience is more challenging to work with, which is why we've introduced phase 2, which is a dedicated agent health experience under agents, and this gives a roll-up dashboard. So this helps me understand the bigger picture. So I can understand here a roll-up of what some of those challenges might be. I can see within here there's 21 devices that are up to date. Maybe there's some higher or lower than expected. Again, this is development, so you might see unusual results within here. And I can also understand within here if I've got issues with devices I haven't checked in a long time. Maybe there's potential duplicates within there if I've reimaged devices, for example. And I can go in and get to a filtered view of those devices and then drill in for the qualitative information in there as well. And as part of that, you also have the ability to check in and update binaries as part of that one as well. And with that, over to you, Susan.
All right, let's continue with dashboards. So let me start sharing. I'm going to start with some demos today. Okay, so we have quite exciting updates for Dashboard Designer this quarter. So the first thing is we are introducing out-of-the-box patch management dashboard. So a little bit recap. Two releases ago, we start to introduce the patch management data set in Dashboard Designer, and now we are introducing an out-the-box dashboard. So if you are still new to the patch management data set, you haven't given it a play yet, this is a really good place to start because we provide it to you out of the box. You can take a look. If you don't like it, you can create your own. And this also really highlights the power of the patch management data set in Dashboard Designer, because now you can, in one dashboard, you have charts that cover the endpoint vulnerability, devices-based charts. You can also have patch management, patch intelligence, charts that have a patch pivot or even cover CVE. And last and definitely not the least, deployment history charts all in one dashboard. So the sky is a limit. It's so flexible. The patch management data set in Dashboard Design is so flexible, but this out of the box dashboard hopefully will get your juice going to see creativity, how you can make the best out of the data set you have. That's the first update. And the second update for Dashboard Designer is we're adding new fields to our data sets. For the devices DEX score, the people DEX scores, we're adding a lot more dimension about the devices and the people. So when you're creating charts or dashboard to analyze the DEX score, now you have more dimension, more attributes you can slice and dice your data from. So for example, the devices, we added key fields like device model, device type. People, we're adding the city where that person's from, country, department. So that will make your analysis of DEX score so much more rich. For the devices data set, our big data set, we are continuing adding data fields as well. So we're adding last software scan date, we're adding the OS, end of feature support, and end of service date. So those, again, will hopefully make your data set rich, so enable you to do more different type of analysis. So that is Dashboard Designer. Now I'm going to switch gear to talk about reports. A little bit recap reports. For report, we started with patch management report. Last quarter, we introduced 6 more reports. And this quarter, we have some exciting items for you. So first, we're introducing the capability to schedule report. So the experience is very similar. You just pick a report you want. It's still the same way. You give it a name. You pick whether you have PDF, CSV, or Excel. But now you have the recurring schedule option. This recurring schedule is highly flexible. Not only you can choose the end date and start date, we support recurrence at the day level, week level, month level. So for example, if not only that, we even have a time that let you specify exactly which time. This is specifically for the Patch Tuesday use case. So for example, you can have it every month occurring at a certain date of every month. Let's say the 10th day. So let's say we can say, for example, the 10th day, and you can specify the exact time. AM, that's probably too late. Let's do AM. And then you can also specify whether you wanted the date or you want to do on the first Monday or Tuesday. So for example, if you're using the Tuesday, you can probably do the first Tuesday. This is a mistake, obviously, every 1 month. And end date, you also have the option of you end by a specific day, end by a certain occurrence, or no end date. So this is very similar to our favorite email client, Winks, in terms of setting up a meeting. So if you're familiar with that, this should, you should have no problem setting up a recurring schedule like that. And that is not the only thing we're adding. So after you schedule the event, you can still continue to do the filtering just like before. But here what we do add is another step, which is email. This is very useful for you. Once you schedule the email, now you can even specify who to send the email to. So now you can even just set it up, say every month you get a report, send it to you, send it to your colleague's mailbox. Doesn't even have to log on anymore to see the report. So here it's important to note that here currently we're limited to fellow Neurons members, so somebody who has already have access to Neurons platform. So for example, I can email it to myself. And then that's it. Then now you can submit the report. And we also enhance the list view so you can see what the schedule is, what the last one, what's the next one is. So that makes it so much more easier for you to find the schedule you want. And once you click into it, just like before, you can see all the details, what filter you apply for the meeting series. Now you can also see who's been distributing to, and even the full report history. So very full feature for the emailing and schedule. It should meet your needs for collaboration, scheduling, and sharing the reports. And that's not the only update. Those are cool updates, but those are not the new updates. We also made enhancements to the report template itself. So for example, one thing we did is on the reports, we add the icon to indicate patches that has been superseded to match the UI. I know on the patch management UI, you can, for patches that has been superseded, there is a certain icon. We're matching that icon. Another feature request from you is some of the devices. Let me show you an example. We added a field called unique devices because so far what happened is when we count installed devices or missing devices, what we do is say, for example, if you have 2 devices and they have 2 patches, installed it on both devices, we count them as 4, 2 times 2. So this will give you a truly total count of how many device patches has been installed. But some of you gave us the feedback that, well, we also want to know how many unique devices in the report, so we have a better sense of what the report is about. So we hear you, we're adding that. So yes, so that's and we are also working on adding for the deployment-based report. We are also adding capability to filter the report on only failed deployments only. So now, just like some of the scan-based report, you can filter to missing patches only. For the deployment report, we also have the capability now to filter to failed deployments only. So those are the key updates we're adding to the reports, specifically patch reports. So I hope you like those report updates. I think it really make our reporting features so much more full-featured, adding so much functionality. So that's for report. That's not the last update for me yet. Last but definitely not the least is Audit Trail. So last quarter, we introduced Audit Trail as a technical preview. This quarter, we are officially GA-ing it. And in this update, not only we added many more events. For example, we added the device deletion event, the reports event, also the dashboarding event we are updating. We may also have bot from Robin, Neurons bot event coming up shortly as well. But that's not the only update yet. Now you can also export. This is quite key. Some of you may want to export it to keep a copy or just to do further analysis. Now we have a capability for you to update the events on the UI in a CSV. You can, of course, filter it first. You can easily say, I just want to see the patch management reports first, and then you can filter it easily. It's easily done. Another update we added is now we can able to see more detail about the event. So some events give you a device deletion, for example. So now we support additional attributes for events. So because some of the event, you do need more spaces, more information, more attribute to show than what's in the table. Now you can drill in and see those additional attributes. You can also see related record because sometimes event doesn't happen in isolation. It's a part of a series of event. Now you can even see that series of event in related record. The last one is before and after. So for some of the event, you have a value that's before and after. Now you can also see it under device details. So that's all the update from me. Quite a full update from both Dashboard Designer reports and Audit Trails. Hope you love the updates we're adding.
Thank you very much. Super exciting to see all the changes come in, Susan and Robin, and we continue that push in discovery. So a lot of great things coming here in discovery and inventory capabilities. So connectors, we continue to enhance them. We really went through a lot of the user voice and the customer requests, and you'll see the number of new filters and authentication models. So if you're using a connector, you see it in the list, jump in, look, you'll find some of those filters and requests that you guys have been putting in. Around the devices, we've been wanting to really expand the ability to view the risks or the findings and the exposures on a device. And then we'll talk about software as well. So we'll just jump right in somehow. There we go. So connector enhancements as we look down. So we enhanced the Intune filters, the Jamf authentication model, Active Directory, we pull the computer location, Intra, we get the security group membership. Intune, we're getting software. We're working on getting the pre-provisioned devices, and the agent install, removing the connector config from that. SCCM, being able to map the devices to the expected device types. So there was a lot of different device types, and we've normalized and fixed that. And then with the Intel AMT, we've updated the authentication model for the latest models of AMT. So it was definitely a quarter of a lot of new authentication models and filtering. But we're excited about what that brings. All of that software and the agents that we put out there, we run the inventory scan, we have that view in the device view, but we really wanted to enhance that software view. And so we've enhanced our software capabilities, and we have a bunch of customers running it now, and we're driving towards bringing out the new software inventory views. Here you can see the new software inventory view. It gives us a view from a manufacturer, a title, a version, or even an install viewpoint. Now, once we have this data, we can come in, we can edit and customize the software titles, names, end of life dates, release dates, any of that stuff that you have for like a line of business software that we don't have content around. We've made it available for you to go in and edit. We've simplified the ability for you to tie a license to a piece of software. So we are going to do a large update here to the module. I'm going to call it the software views, but really we're going to call it the entire spend intelligence views are going to get a large update here. So we're really excited about this. Now, not only did we get a good software view enhancement under the covers, we leveraged it to build out what's called CPEs, or Common Product Enumeration. As we take that Common Product Enumeration, we're pushing it over into and through our exposure database. We're taking the Common Product Enumerators and tying them into the Common Vulnerability. And this gives us the ability. So if you don't have a endpoint scanner, so here you can see I'm showing you vulnerabilities from Tenable, Qualys, CrowdStrike. If you don't have a vulnerability scanner, you can enable the virtual scanner, and it's going to take the software, use the CPE data, and generate you a vulnerability view of the software that's inside of your environment. So we've also enhanced the vulnerability views. So you can see here, we've added a lot of new columns, sorting capabilities, and ability for you to drill into that. All of that virtual vulnerability scanning is going to update and be visible inside of our exposure insights. And we've added some new views here to simplify this as well. So a lot of work in that software side in the spend intelligence. All right, Neurons workspace. As we talk about the workspace, the ability for us to get the right data to our support analyst or any admin who's working really in that one-to-one model, we had a few things that we really wanted to simplify. First off was, how do I customize the inventory? Hey, I have an attribute I need for specific reporting or for requirements. We've given you the ability now to query registry, WMI, add additional file extensions, and basically all of those customization settings that you've been used to in EPM or on-prem software is now available for you here inside of the Neurons capability. Scoping is a big piece, and we've been working on scopes. As we build out scopes is the ability for us to limit and focus which devices you can see. We have scopes that are enforced on the device views. We've now extended scopes to work in patch as well. So you're going to see this, and we're going to have Ben or Robin is going to talk about some other areas where we leverage scopes in this release coming up as well. Remote control, one of those things that we got some feedback from customers was, hey, password complexity continues to make it more and more difficult for me to type in the password at a login screen. So if I go to remote control a device and I have to type in, especially a service account, those passwords can be super long, complex, challenging. Give me the ability to just cut and paste. So we're super excited to say, hey, we can now cut and paste at the login screen into the password field, and it'll give you that ability to manage that. With that, Robin, I think it's back to you.
Fantastic, awesome, exciting stuff, Rex, and yeah, really hot on the heels. Talking about device scopes, there's a couple of big updates coming to Edge Intelligence. One of those being device scope support, the second being device group support, as well as some UX enhancements. So let's jump straight into demo and show some of this stuff working. So Edge Intelligence here, you can see that I'm currently scoped, so I'm only seeing 2 devices here. There are around 40 or so devices on this tenant. So I can actually back out of that because I'm also an administrator here. I'm just going to find myself within the list. Here we go, and choose the right account here. I can go to my scopes and I can remove myself from here. I can remember to save and close. And within a minute or so, that will update, and I can see now I've got the full unrestricted view of the environment. So the same is true, of course, in reverse. So again, Edge Intelligence as a tool, super useful for being able to see the fleet-wide view at scale. From a support perspective, I know a lot of customers have been holding back until they can constrain that to their areas of responsibility from a device perspective. So again, the tool set from a support analyst continues to get more powerful there. Now, the other new capability that we have within here is around the grouping. So historically, Edge Intelligence was one of the first features we brought into the Neurons platform. And it was because of that, it's always been slightly disjointed from the broader device group experience because it effectively it came first and predated a lot of those capabilities. And so now what we've brought in is really bringing those worlds together, where we have the ability to target your existing device groups. So those device groups, you go out and create in the device list view. These are now available within Edge Intelligence. I can go in, I can click OK, and then that's going to constrain not only this view, but also all of the sensors that I now go and utilize within here, or queries that I put in. It's only going to run on the devices within the context of that device group, of course, with scopes applied on top of that one as well, if they're configured. So again, being able to get really granular in terms of the targeting, not having to reinvent the wheel. So I know this is one that's been hotly anticipated by many folks as well. So we're excited to be able to bring that. So another enhancement within there is, again, if I'm building out individual devices within here, we now have indications within here to understand if the device is online or offline within there as well, which was another requested enhancement that we've been able to deliver there too. Okay, fantastic. So we've talked about these. So next we're on to healing, and before we talk about app distribution, while I'm talking, we'll talk about bots first. So let's go and jump straight in. So from a bots perspective, okay, let's go and have a look first of all and load up the bots feature. So the first thing here is we've offering up a number of capabilities for admins who are constructing bots. If I just go and open a random bot within here, doesn't really matter which one, I'm just going to go into edit mode in here. So when you're building a bot out, typically customers might be deploying from templates, or they might start to go and create bots themselves. A simple bot might have a couple of stages in, and that's great. We can go and preview query stages to understand the data that's going to come back from those stages, which helps with building things out. Now, where this starts to get challenging is if I have a number of different branches that come off that are conditional. I might have something in there that is, for example, dependent on a particular event ID that comes in. So maybe I'm looking for event ID. Maybe if a device overheats or there's an application specific issue that crops up and I want to be able to self-heal from that one. Again, I can go and configure these particular events to listen to. And what I might have downstream of that is some actions. So I might want to go and maybe restart a process or something, so I can maybe start a stop process if I see a particular event that comes in. I can go and pass that process in, or I can even go and inject that process name in using information from an upstream stage, for example. So if I was to go, and I'm just going to define a bot input on this one, just to show the basic capability in here. And so what I'm doing here is using some information that is sourced when I go and run the bot. It's going to ask me for a process name. It's going to pass it down and it's going to go through this branch. So if I want to validate that this stage is working correctly, historically, I'd have to run the bot and I'd have to find a way to make this event be matched. So it's kind of quite a cumbersome process to really test and validate that this handling, this downstream logic, or maybe it's error branching, is doing what I want it to. So what we've introduced is this new capability up here, how to test stages. And when I click on that one, it's going to give me a little graphic and it's going to show me how I can multi-select stages. So the multi-select is something that's been in the product for a long time. It's not obvious how to do it. So this serves as a bit of a refresher if you don't know how to do this. So by the way, this is super useful if you want to clone stages, create similar branching, or just move things around. You can go and create this box and you move things around in situ. But the new functionality is when I go and multi-select these stages, I now have the ability to run these stages in isolation and pass in any information that's required in order for these stages to run. So what it means I can do is it's asking me for the inputs because I token that input into the start process. But again, if I had other inputs within here, other logic, it's going to ask me for that information up front. So what that means is I can provide the information. I can go and choose a single device from the list, and I can go and run that, and it's just going to run these stages. The other stages that aren't being run are grayed out, and it's going to go and process those stages. So what will happen at the same time is as those are running, it does keep track of that in the back end as well. In the trigger history, I have this new option up here to show test runs in there. So again, I'm able to view up here. I have this this test run in here, and I can go and click and understand the outcome of whatever happened within those stages. So that is feature number one. The next feature to show, I'm going to go and just open that same bot again. And this again is another request, another idea that's been raised. And this is, hey, it would be great to have the ability to selectively enable and disable branches. Sometimes when you're building out a bot, you want to build out and test some logic in a version, and you don't necessarily want that to be invoked. So in this case, you have the ability to administratively enable and disable that link between the stages. When a link's disabled, you can save the bot, you can run the bot, but devices and data will never kind of propagate through that link. It's going to act as if it's a filter that's blocking everything. And so that's a way in which we can streamline our template delivery as well. So the third item to show is around bot cancellation. So sometimes when you're running a bot, or hopefully you never have to use this feature. I'll preface this by saying, but suppose you go and run a bot and then you realize as the bot's running, you've made a mistake or there's an unexpected impact and you want to immediately smash the glass and stop the bot from doing what it's doing. So today, up until this point, within the execution history, you've been able to stop individual automation fabric actions, but you've not been able to stop a current bot from processing. So any bot that's in a pending state where it's running within the trigger history, you now get this floating cancel button on the right. You can go and cancel a button that will effectively, once whichever stage a device is at and it completes that stage, it will then not process any subsequent stages. So it'll effectively perform an abort at that point, and you'll be able to view the cancellation. We will also be showing that on the overview screen as well. That isn't quite wired up at this point. Okay, the next thing is an area of a lot of feedback, and that's around the scheduler flexibility. So when we have a scheduled healing bot within here, we've offered some basic scheduling experience within here, which gives you the ability to choose your recurrence, how often, the intervals, the start date, the end date. But for many use cases, that just isn't flexible enough. So what we've introduced is a new toggle on here where you can switch to an advanced schedule mode. So what this means is there's no behavior to existing bots. We're not making any changes. But what you can do is open a bot, switch on to the advanced mode. And then when you open the advanced schedule setting, this offers enhanced flexibility. So for example, Monday to Friday time zones, or weekend, or user defined, and you can go and pick specific days of the week. But where a lot of the feedback that we had was around, well, actually, you only support a maximum interval of weekly. Actually, monthly is great for things like surveys where we want to do things much more sporadically. So this is where we can have a monthly occurrence. We can go and choose Again, whether it's every month or user defined, we can choose specific months. So maybe this is just 1 month. We've got all the validation around that, and we're going to show you within here the next execution time. So there's no ambiguity around when these things are then going to run. So that is the schedule enhancements. The next thing is dynamic teams buttons. So if we look at the stages that we have available, I'm just going to pick an example here for free disk space. So certain stages will return multiple records for the same device. Or indeed, I can pass in inputs that might be a list within here. So that might be a list of text, so an array of information. Either way, in the case of free disk space, this is going to create, for example, a row for each drive letter that you have. And that might vary from endpoint to endpoint. Sometimes when we're interacting with the user, we want to use that information to put different buttons in front of the user. So free disk space, it might be, please let us know which drive letter you want us to save XYZ to or perform a disk cleanup on. Maybe we're looking at Wi-Fi access points because users got high latency, and please confirm which Wi-Fi you think you should be connected to. So being able to take that dynamic information and present it as buttons is, again, useful for a number of use cases in there. So what we have is on the Teams interaction stage. This is currently called V3. We will be replacing at launch. This will be an upgrade for the existing stage that you have. Down here, we have dynamic interaction type, and then you choose which attribute within that list you want to create the buttons from. So in this case, it'd be drive letter. And then if I had a C drive and a D drive, when this interaction comes up, whatever question I type in here, it's going to present those buttons as C and D. So that is that one. The final one to talk about before I hand over to Rex and then to Lara is an update that we've made to the update ITSM ticket. So we have within our actions here the ability to create and update ITSM ticket. And I should pass on thanks to Jack in the audience who raised this idea. Great idea. And really the challenge is when we interact with ITSM, we are acting on the default form on the incident business object. And of course, customers can go and customize that. So they can choose different names, they can choose which fields are mandatory. So a lot of the work we've done in bots is to reflect those customizations and bring those through dynamically. So at the point we go and interact, we're going in and collecting, we're looking at that form and we're rendering what that form looks like within here so that we can set all those options. And then we layer on all of the extra logic in there, like the ability to deduplicate tickets and things like that. So what we've had in there for a while is the ability to use an existing ticket ID. Now, the challenge with the ticket ID is when I put the ticket information in there, again, we are reflecting what we see on the form, which is saying, hey, it's got all of these mandatory fields within here. But up until this release, what that's meant is that if I'm using a ticket, I'm not updating a ticket that's been created within this instance of bots. I've got an existing ticket that an agent's working and they want to do some useful things like pass some diagnostic information into the journal ticket of the notes, or I just want to keep the ticket intact, but I want to change the state and maybe I want to mark it as resolved because the bot's done some work and it's been able to fix it. So all of those kind of things. What I don't want to do is to overwrite the existing description, the existing state. But I want to be able to have flexibility to choose which of those fields I want to update. So if you use a ticket ID and we've got this behavior here to throw error, which is the default, then what we're going to do is to provide the ability for you to select which fields that you want to update. So maybe I do want to update the description, maybe I don't, but you can go and click these fields, and as you click them, they're rendered dynamically on the form. So you can go and move that one to resolved. You can put some journal notes in. Again, you can inject any information from upstream within the bot. And that information is going to make its way across to the journal, and any stages will be set, but it will leave those other forms intact. So with that said, just a couple of cursory updates as we go through. I'll flip through the app distribution because Rex will speak to that in a moment. We've spoken about the connection strings. We've spoken about the dynamic buttons. That's what it looks like. The canceller running bot, the scheduling of the bot. If you're in Japan or Canada, we now support the Teams bot within there. Customized welcome message for Teams. This is one that's been asked for a lot as well. So the existing message we have there wasn't ideal, wasn't flexible. It was hard coded and kind of met with some of the Microsoft publishing requirements. What we are doing is providing the ability for administrators to be able to define that initial welcome message. So that'll be present on the settings area for the Neurons bots experience, and then that will be pushed out for new users of the solution. So with that said, Rex, do you want to cover app distribution?
Absolutely. So app distribution, very important piece for us. We continue to work on enhancing our app distribution capabilities. And a couple of pieces that are key pieces that are coming along here. There we go. Somehow we want to share. First off is the preferred server capability. Now we have a lot of app distribution things that we're working on, bundling, scopes, run as a user. All these are coming. Right now, the two big ones that are coming in this release are run now. So this is the ability for us to go into a task and say, hey, I want to run this task right now. Now, when we do that today, as we release, we're watching and we're very concerned that we make sure that we don't overwhelm anybody's system, anybody's network, any systems. So we're going to release it kind of in a preview mode where we have some rate limiting on it. So it's going to monitor and allow you to start one task with over 200 devices, or as many tasks as you want with under 1,000 devices every hour. So if you want to do a run now on 10,000 devices, no problem. In an hour, you'll be able to click the button on a next task with the 10,000. But I don't want you to run through and click on 50 tasks with the 10,000 right now. So we're working through the rate limiting. We're monitoring that. It's going to come out with the one task over 200 devices or as many tasks as you'd like under 1,000 devices that need targeted. We're going to watch and monitor what it does to the agents, what it does to the networks, and then we'll adjust those rate limits as we move forward. So run now, we're super excited, but do know there are some rate limits on it right now as we monitor that and move forward. And then preferred server support. We're very excited about getting that agent capability of being able to have preferred servers, select the preferred servers you want, and leverage those to be able to download the content from them. So this will be a great piece as we see really large packages, not having to put those out onto the cloud share or download them from the cloud. You'll be able to use that on-prem storage. You'll be able to use that existing storage that you have to be able to deploy apps from that. So a couple of big things that are coming there in app distribution, and we're continuing to work, and we're very excited about this stuff that's coming in next quarter. So stay with us. With that, Laura, I think we can turn it over to you.
So I'm here to talk about app control. We have added some more new features for this quarter based on customer feedback and also looking at some feature parity side of things. So if we go to the next slide, one of the popular features that we hadn't got around to adding yet was ANAC, or Application Network Access Control. It works similarly to allow and deny for files, but for network locations. So I'll show you that in just a moment, but it's a very similar kind of thing. Similarly, on the next slide, we have browser control, which again is that ability to deny access to specific URLs. And in fact, you can go even more granular if you want to. You could, for example, deny access to bbc.co.uk, but allow access to bbc.co.uk/weather. So you're still allowed to look up the weather reports, but you're not allowed to read the sports news. So you have that level of control as well with browser management. And then a couple of usability things that we've added for customers based on feedback from people who have been using app control. We are now able to filter the dashboards by the config. So the event data you see is specific to a specific config. And the other piece that we have added is the ability to clone configs. So you can take an existing configuration that you've spent however much time perfecting that you want to now take a copy of to deploy to a different set of devices or what have you, and you can just take that config. So if I switch over now to my demo, and we can see all of that in action. We are here on the dashboard, and the first thing I can show you is that new way to drill down to see just particular events for a particular config. So in this test system, we have 2 configurations that are published. At the moment, if you look at this graph, we've got 5 total apps and 47 total apps. If I use this ANAC test as the filter, then suddenly it goes down to 3 and 27. So you can see this whole dashboard is now filtered by that particular configuration, including all of these charts that show things that are happening over time. And we can see we've got some new charts here as well for the new features that we've added. So the denied network items and the URL redirects also have their own charts now. This capability goes through to the drill downs as well. So if I drill into this chart, I can now, if I choose this to add a rule to, or to create a rule, it assumes that I want to create a rule for the configuration that I had filtered by. So it also has that level of intelligence in there. If I now go and have a look at configurations, I can see my config here, and I have this clone configuration button. So this lets me take a copy of the existing config. I can give it a name. And when I clone it, then I end up with 2 configurations in the list. This obviously starts from it loses the version history. So the clone loses the version history. You have only the first version, if you will. But if I edit it from here, I can now have a look at some of those new rule types we've added. So if I add a new rule, let me save the draft. Okay, so if I now add a new rule, so I'm going to add a deny type of rule, and now we have this new type. So where in the past we just had file or application because that was the only thing you could deny, now we can deny a network connection, for example. And it's got the same level of flexibility as it has in the on-premises solution. So if you're familiar with application control, this should feel familiar, but it has all of the granularity as you'd expect. So I can specify whether it's an IP address, a network share, or a host name. And if you saw as I clicked through there, the values that you needed to complete changed based on which one you had chosen. But if I do something like and I can put a port number in there as well if I want to, or I can specify it here. Once I've added it, if I then want to edit it, I can still do that, and it pre-populates the data for you. So it's nice and easy to do. And then when the rule is applied is exactly the same as it is for the allow and deny and the privilege elevations as well. So I can have the rule just apply to absolutely everybody. Or I can have it apply to different groups of people or different individuals or devices or IP address ranges, whatever it is I think is important. If I go back to what type, instead of network connection, I can choose that URL. And as you would expect, you just enter the URL that you would like to allow, or in this case, deny. It can then go to either the default AC warning page when the URL is denied, so you can see a default page that just says you're not allowed to navigate to this location, or you can have a custom page when it's denied, and then you can set a different location for each of the URLs that you want to deny. So in that case, it might be that if people are trying to go to your competitor's website, I don't know, that you could redirect them to your own website, or if you've recently changed vendors and people keep trying to go to your own the old vendor to make orders or whatever, then you can automatically redirect them to the new vendor's website. So it gives you that flexibility as well. And similarly, it has that ability to choose when these rules apply. So again, you can have different rules for different sets of people, or different IP addresses, or different device groups, or whatever it is that you want to have. It's got the same level of flexibility in the configurations. I think that is everything I wanted to show you on app control. The other thing I will say, and we probably don't need the slide up for this, is for UWM on-premises customers, we are adding for this quarter the ability to deploy application control on premises. So not the Neurons version yet. Application control on premises will be available on ARM-based devices. So that's the big headline piece coming for UWM this quarter.
Super. Thanks, Laura. Great updates there. I'll just share my screen back a moment, just for the final screen there. So I think we've answered most of the questions in the chat. We'll go through and double check. If anyone wants to come off mute in the last few minutes and ask any questions verbally, we'd be happy to answer those.